Okay, good evening, everyone. My name is Jennifer Fraskowitz-Taylor from AAC Accessible. I'm so happy that you guys are joining us tonight for our first fireside chat of the year. We have an amazing presentation for you guys today from Bilingual AAC. So we're going to get it started. So ladies, please introduce yourselves. And again, I will be moderating the chat for any questions. And thank you again for helping us tonight.
Hi, so we're Bilingual AAC. So we're just going to introduce myself first. Let me just do the screen share here. So I'm Sarah. I'm an AAC specialist and a speech language pathologist for 13 years. I currently am in the Bay Area and I work with students with cognitive and physical disabilities, so more moderate and severe cases. And then next I have Alma.
Hi, everyone. My name is Alma. I am also in the Bay Area, a little bit south from Sarah. I graduated from San Jose State, which gave me a grant on AAC. And I'm a speech therapist right now in the school setting, working with preschoolers and TK students. And I met Sarah through Instagram after I was working with Diverse AAC, which I still am working with. I created videos about like how to create a toggle button in English and Spanish. And Sarah reached out to me and just said, you know, I've created the button, but now that I'm working with only speakers of Spanish and I don't speak Spanish, can you like help me out and like create a word list of things I can target? And that's kind of where Bilingual AAC came about. So we've been working for a year now on creating these resources to help out the students, just in case like you don't speak Spanish, some resources for those students. So that's a little bit about myself and about the Instagram accounts that I help start. And I'm going to pass it over to Maria, I think. Oh, Melissa.
Hi, everyone. I'm Melissa Tapia. I am a bilingual bicultural SLP in the Chicagoland area. I have been working in school systems for 5 years now with a variety of diagnoses. I started my CF year with AAC as well, bilingual caseload. And I also currently work for my own private practice, Hablame Speech Therapy, where I do also incorporate a lot of AAC. I'm so excited to be here tonight and that my amazing colleagues have invited me to participate in this project. It is definitely a work of passion for all of us, and we've been working so hard and we're so excited to share. I'm going to pass it over to Maria.
Hi, everyone. So I'm Maria. I'm a bilingual speech pathologist working in California. I work in Southern California, and I do a lot of AAC or exclusively AAC. We do, at my setting, I work for a nonprofit. I don't know if you guys heard of it, but it's called the Goodwill, but more specifically, the Goodwill of Orange County. So I do AAC evaluations, trials, and trainings for schools, regional centers, specific like clinics and centers. Other than that, I also graduated from, oh no, I think I'm a diff San Jose, but I did San Francisco State, and they also have a certificate for AAC there. The year that I completed it, they were calling it Project Building Bridges. So I do have that background in AAC. Before that, I was also working at a school as a response to intervention teacher. And my focus is right now is, of course, AAC and implementing, I guess, affirming bilingual services. So that's kind of what I'm doing. So this next part, bilingual intervention, I wanted to start a little bit of like how our project started and the approach that we're looking when we are serving our students who are bilingual. That's why I kind of listed the cross-linguistic approach, bilingual approach, and social cultural approach. These approaches are actually common in bilingual intervention. It's not something that we like invented. So cross-linguistic approach is like teaching another language using their first language, like Spanish, to support like English learning, for example. And you mostly in cross-linguistic approaches, you teach a concept in one language and then you teach the same concept in the other language. And that's what's referred to cross-linguistic approach. For bilingual approach, you are teaching a concept or, you know, in both languages at the same time. For social cultural approach, you are taking a family-centered approach and really taking the individual's lives and the languages that they use and how that affects them in the world. So for our project, I would just wanted to point out that we created all those resources to be mostly a bilingual approach and social cultural approach, just because we do understand that a lot of SLPs don't speak the other language, but we do want to provide tools where you are able to maybe teach vocabulary in Spanish, but at the same time, of course, English will be like the foundational language that you'll be teaching that Spanish vocabulary. And the social cultural approach is always taking into consideration that we want the family to be present and the person as a whole is, we need to look at the person as a whole rather than teaching a specific language. So next one, this just says, remember that for individuals that are bilingual, what matters is not the language that we're teaching. So it's not specifically like Spanish or English, but mostly the way that typical in individuals with speech disabilities, the way that they do learn another language has a lot to do with the environment and how the environment is set up for them to practice the language and to, of course, the exposure that they are having. So that was that.
Oops, sorry. So let me just stop sharing just for a second here. Okay, so what happened was, as Alma was kind of explaining, is that, you know, I was really interested in doing bilingual work because a lot of my students are Spanish dominant, and a lot of them need translators when I speak to their parents and things. And I understood that there's this idea of cultural linguistic appropriate practice, right? And I just didn't see how we provided a toggle button or we provide an AAC overlay, but we weren't doing enough explicit instruction using these systems. And in the same way, like all AAC is that without explicit instructions and without like modeling it, I just didn't see how I was going to teach them and beef up their L1 language, which would have been Spanish. So then our team came together, and this team has also came up with a website to share all of our findings that we learned while going through this process. So I'm going to share that website with you guys today. So here's our website. And a huge thing that I felt I had trouble with and difficulty was like what types of information I can give to my parents who are Spanish dominant. So here it's all in English here, but if you click, so it says getting started with your AAC device, if you click it, there is a download function here, and it'll be an English and Spanish version that you can give out to your parents, and it'll be a handout. I don't know if you guys can see this, it's a PDF. So here it is in Spanish, and then you have it also in English. So we have a bunch of resources there on, providing Spanish bilingual therapy for, to provide some coaching to your parents. And then we have different types of AAC. So these are all just different, just what is descriptive teaching, how to take care of your talker. So these are all for the professional and also for the parents, things that you can give out to your parents. But then we also have this portion called Para Padres, and this is for parents who want to learn more in their language. So this is all in Spanish for them to understand and read. And it's also clickable downloads as well. And we also have a shop button. Right now we have 2 templates and they are currently free, so you can download them. And these are templates that were created based off of Gloria Soto's research paper on common core words and bilingual children. What are the words that bilingual Spanish children learn first? And is it even applicable to English language common core words? Like, that's a really big question. And her research had all of these vocabularies as being the first words for children. And we just created a template where you could choose verbs and words, and you can have like a therapist prompt. I don't even know if I can click this right now. I think I have to download it. I'm sorry. But if you download it, there's like this therapist prompts here where you can ask them, what do I say in Spanish? And then what can I model for them? So I'll say donde, and maybe I will say something like casa, or I will say like arriba. And so just really creating a template where like it's so easy for even me, who's a monolingual speaker, will be able to understand. So that is all we have, but then we also have some questions from the crowd if we wanted to do a Q&A.
I also wanted to add for the templates, I think we'll have further kind of seminars explaining a little bit more of how to use that. It was just, I think the one that we have now is just to kind of have people use it and see how it goes. But it will come with a, what do you call it, like a kind of like how to use it. And we'll have that on the shop. And so it's not like just, you guys won't be lost, but we do have like a step-by-step of how do we want to use these templates.
Thank you. And I put in the website in the chat box for everyone to see.
Oh, nice. Thank you. Yeah, so Sarah, are you sharing the questions, or does anyone have any questions now?
Okay, I will put it in the chat again. Sorry, guys.
Yeah.
I think maybe we can like go ahead and share our questions. I mean, the questions that we received, and then if like questions are brought up after or while we're chatting.
Yeah, so we compiled a list of questions that were asked prior to this presentation, so during registration. So we can go through those question and answers, and then we'll each take a turn on answering them. There we go.
Okay.
All right.
Nice. Our website is also on an ongoing process. So there are going to be a lot more handouts and a lot of more resources available as we keep going. We just launched, I think this was launched last week. So it's fresh.
Oh, I was going to ask you guys, how long has your organization been together for?
Well, we started this project, I would say like around March of last year, with the goal in mind of like creating this resource specifically for helping bilingual learners, but from the lens of you could be bilingual SLP, or if you're a monolingual SLP, working with a pair, working with a translator, stuff like that. So that's been like how long we've been together. But then like, you know, we've been meeting monthly, sometimes weekly, to like really narrow down our website and make our slides.
So here's the first question, and I think Maria is going to answer this one. So how do you recommend programming AAC for students that primarily speak Spanish? And how should the adults model? English, Spanish, or both? Which language to model and when?
Yeah, so this kind of goes back to that one slide in the beginning. I'm answering like the second, like when do we want to model like Spanish, English, or both? I do think it depends on like the approach that you want to take. Of course, taking a cross-linguistic approach, that means that you would have to teach Spanish, like the concept in Spanish and then in English. And this can be easy for a Spanish speaker, but if you are not a Spanish speaker, then you wouldn't be able to do the cross-linguistic approach. So it just depends of where your level of Spanish is, or Spanish is. So if you don't know a lot of Spanish, I would certainly say that to stick to maybe a bilingual approach, or even the social cultural approach. So always making sure that everything that you are providing to your student, you have like that kind of cultural linguistic lens on, and trying to figure out of how you can make an AAC application better, or like even what vocabulary words do we want to include. That was a lot of our project, and making those templates is really targeting the vocabulary, because a lot of monolingual SLPs might think, oh, you know, here's this this Spanish core word, I'm just going to use this and implement it, and I'm doing, you know, bilingual there, or doing some type of therapy with Spanish words, but sometimes those words are not directly translated. Not all of them. Some of them do tend to be cognates, where they are a core word in English and they are a core word in Spanish, but not all of them. So this research, the templates that we created, it's based on Soto and Cooper 2021 research. So you can find it now, actually, it's out. Like if you just do a Google, like the article will come up. And what she did, they both did like a database of different Spanish speaking children and try to figure out what were, they don't call it core words, they call it high frequency words. So what high frequency words came up in Spanish speaking individuals, not necessarily bilingual because they don't have that research, but they did do Spanish speaking. And they came up with a list of like 200, I want to say 200, 300 words. So our templates are based, we grabbed some of those words and we created these templates. In terms of, so that's how I would, answering the question, I would say that you would try to do kind of like a bilingual and a cross-cultural.
And then really quickly, I wanted to chime in, like as an example for I work with preschoolers, and our preschool SDC class is all in English. So when I push into the classroom to get the paras and everyone to understand the device, I model in English. But when I'm working with the kid individually, I do Spanish therapy. So I'll do 30 minutes, if they have 30 minutes twice a week, I'll do Spanish one time or English one time. But if I'm in the classroom, I'm modeling those English words just to get the paras and everyone on board mostly. But then always having the toggle button available if there is a vocabulary word that they know in Spanish, just having the bilingual vocabulary be available. So that's an example of like the bilingual approach.
Yeah.
Okay, we do have a questions in the chat box. Do you guys want to do that at the end or do that now?
We can do that now.
Okay. This is coming from Barbara. She said, I work in early intervention, so I may be the first one trialing AAC with a child or family. I'm looking for simple core boards. I find many that are translated from English, and this doesn't always work well. Do you have any resources with core boards? I'm also looking for short videos showing me how to model communication with core boards.
Yeah. I can answer, and then Alma, Melissa, or Sarah, if you guys want to, add anything. But the core words, we're in the works of creating core board words based on that research that we've been talking about. We have to get like permission from some like companies, but it should be out like soon, like in the next week or two. Other than that, our website, if you go into the links for professionals, you'll find a lot of websites that have core words in Spanish that are free and they're easily downloadable. So if you go, so to Bilingual AAC, and then for professionals, you'll find that some of the for professionals links. So we have to go down to links. So right here, so you'll find this Aula Abierta, AAC. They have a lot of core boards, and not only in Spanish, but you find them in Portuguese, Italian, French, and it's really nice. Like if you go in there, it's really nice. The only thing that I would say it's could be a translation from English to Spanish. And like I mentioned, not every word translates, so I would be really careful about that. But currently right now they have that. There's more, I included the link actually, tableros. So there's the core boards there. In terms of the videos, if you go, you can explore more of our, all of these links. I think that for modeling AAC, it might be for Spanish speaking professionals. So right there, the links for Spanish speaking professionals on the left. Yeah, right there, there's several websites here where they have their videos, like they have videos of students doing, like you can be modeling AAC. One of them is AlphaSAC, or if you keep going down, AlphaSAC, I think there's another one down there. Hablo CEA. All of these are really good. The Step Up AT, that one is, I just actually discovered that website, and they have a lot of Spanish YouTube videos that you can also share with your families. Escuela AAC, that one also has a lot of videos that demonstrate modeling in AAC. Yeah. Okay, so the next question.
Sorry, I'm having some problems with this today. Okay, this one is for Alma. So what is the best way to select core words for Spanish-speaking clients on AAC related to the school curriculum? Are the most common core words the same across languages? How to support dual language learners who are AAC users in largely English-only spaces?
I think I'm going to pass this over to Melissa. She had some really nice things to say about Fix and Calp. She'll explain it a lot better.
Yes, so these are great questions. So the best way to select core words for Spanish-speaking clients on AAC related to the school curriculum, again, just bouncing back to what Maria was saying about creating an environment for AAC and, for our English language learners, not just Spanish English language learners, we also need to be understanding of the Fix and Calp, which can also be found on Colorín Colorado. That's one of the links we have also for professionals on our website. So with BICS, it's that basic intercommunication, like social language that we need to develop first before we have that academic language that's used in the school with the curriculum. So definitely when we are working with our emerging communicators, early communicators, we want to give them that functional language still. And I think that it is going to be the focus of our intervention. But we do want to give them access to the curriculum as well. I'm going to go a little bit into the second question. Are the most common core words the same across languages? And I think we saw from the question we just previously answered that that's not the case. So you can't just translate those core word lists. There's definitely those words that are more high frequency in one language that are used more. So when we're supporting our dual language learners, like I was saying, usually if they have like more minutes a week and she can pull them, if we can use activities that are culturally relevant for them, those would be amazing to be able to support them in being able to use functional phrases and language modeling, a lot of the words that they can also utilize in their classroom environment, being able to like ask for help, label different items and integrating those different communicative functions. But it is not going to be easy to just translate those core word lists again, and you should not be translating the core word list. And I think that's what's really special and important about the resources we created, the amount of research that we did put into them, and the selection of the vocabulary is very relevant to some of the overlap that we do see with Spanish speaking and English speaking students. So I think that's what is going to be so great about this project as well. But in selecting the words to target, we have to be cognizant with English language learners in schools that they need to first develop that basic intercommunication social language. And with the CALP, the research has shown that it takes 5 to 7 years for students to be able to achieve that academic. Anyone have any other questions about that? More clarification on those? Awesome. Okay, and then
I think somebody is asking for subtitles in Spanish.
Yeah, Tan and I have been looking into that. It's a limitation of Zoom, I think. Since you guys are speaking in English, the subtitles are in English.
Okay, so not translated.
Great question though.
Okay, so this next question is, what are some considerations for ways to select the most appropriate app? What apps have the best pronunciation? Do they have scanning options? And how easy is it to navigate in both languages?
the short answer is there is not a single app out there that is the perfect bilingual app. Honestly, the only way we can get a bilingual app is if a Spanish speaking SLP creates one. I just don't think it's going to happen. It's just like bilingual is so broad, right? And people are on a lot of sides of the spectrum in terms of their bilingualism. Like they could be very, dominant in one side. And so it's just really hard to create I thought it was easy. I'm like, yeah, I'm going to do it, but it's really, really difficult. But some of the apps used to be a lot worse, and now they've like made some changes and made it better. But there's not a single app that I can like with my heart recommend, but there are some good ones that we are using like for the time being. And then myself and the creators of Diverse AAC, we actually created a huge crosswalk and we listed every single app out there that has all the different language capabilities. And that's available if you go on our Instagram, Diverse AAC, we have a link tree. Actually, I think I can put it in the chat. And then in that link tree, we have the AAC app. We call it a crosswalk, but it's just a long Excel doc of all the different apps and all the different links that they have. And oops, sorry, I think I should the link twice. But anyhow, I really love LAMP, Words for Life in Spanish, because it has a lot of all the preterite verb forms like yo jugué, tú jugaste. All of them are available like on one page, whereas on TouchChat, I feel like it's harder to navigate. But I love TouchChat, and a lot of my families love TouchChat for their symbols. Some people don't like either of those apps because you can say something in Spanish and then you have to switch to English and say an English word. And when you press the message bar, it's not the correct pronunciation. It doesn't code switch correctly. Some people have said that that's why they like Proloquo Go, because Proloquo Go does have like code switching abilities. I don't have a lot of experience myself with Proloquo Go. TD Snap has a lot of social phrases, which a lot of families are really attuned to. So I guess in short answer is like there's not a single app that is really good for bilingual users. There are some that are getting like close, and it really also depends on your client. So like if your client is all about the symbols and they don't want anything else and they really love symbol sticks, then TouchChat might be something you're more attuned to. Again, if you want to create like novel words in Spanish, I really do think LAMP does a good job. As opposed to TouchChat where you have to navigate. But honestly, it depends on your client's level of ability and level of the community to help foster the language too. Like what can they model on which device? So all in all, to say that there are some apps out there, but unfortunately, I don't think there's a really good bilingual app, but they're all getting pretty close. And then I just shared the app, the actual device crosswalk that we created. So it lists like every app or every developer's name, the name, the app, and the different languages that they have available.
Awesome, thank you. And then I have a question. I'm not trying to break off. I work in Northern Virginia. Most of my case, the big caseload of Spanish speaking. I have some families who their primary language is Spanish, but the school will provide the device and they will not provide it to them in Spanish. They will only provide it. So for example, LAMP Words for Life, they'll only provide it in English. And then when I, as the outside SLP, when they'll come to me for an AAC evaluation, they'll come and they'll have this device and the family's like, I want it bilingual. So then they'll contact the school and say, hey, is it a possibility that we can change the settings so that LAMP is, they have access to both languages? And the school will come back and say, we only speak English here, so we will only do English. So anyways, or words of wisdom for parents or words of wisdom for therapists of how to help advocate through these school districts.
Well, first of all, yikes, right?
Yeah. I was going to say that definitely is like an assistive technology lawsuit waiting to happen in terms of making sure a device that is available in their own language.
Yes. And sometimes I have a couple of kids in particular, they do not have access to insurance right now. So I cannot get them a device through insurance. I'd love to, but so the only option is the device that's provided through their school, but school is not providing them the availability of both languages.
So one of the things I can like speak on just quickly is also the buy-in that happens and abandonment that can happen, especially because the parents aren't understanding the language on the device. If it's English and parents are Spanish speaking, how are they going to be able to model at home and use AAC in the community? It's like, it's just, you know, there's not going to be great success already.
I know it's things that to me and you, it's like, why am I even fighting with you about this? It's a setting. Like if you want family buy-in and you want success, but just wasn't sure if you guys had ever come into that before.
Yeah. Well, actually, I have, and I'm like, what? I'm just kidding. I'm just kind of like, it's almost like taking it like, I guess taking it in and being like, oh, you know, that understands, but in actuality, and this just happened to me like a couple months ago, and I had to write up a trial report pointing out that it is actually IDEA. I don't know if it's IDEA or ASHA says that we have to incorporate the family's culture, and it's part of like ethics and stuff like that. And I included that description on my assessment, or it can be a simple email. Finding like the legal, like if we went into like court, like if parents had the means to bring in like lawyers, like they would say, why not? Like they would win because it is actually embedded in the law. So it's kind of like doing that somehow respectfully, but like pointing it out, like, and I was gonna right now, I'm gonna see if I can find where I found that.
Just added the ASHA Code of Ethics.
Thank you.
Oh, did you do it? Okay.
Then Jennifer, just like really quickly, like something you could do like tomorrow is create maybe like the light tech version of the student's device in Spanish, and depending on their system, just so that they have something meanwhile while they're waiting. I think that would be a good, but I really do think it's important to have a voice output that's in Spanish. I really think like that's really important, you know?
It has to reflect, that's your culture, that's home. We need, that's so important, beyond important, but not everyone sees that. So thank you guys that's why it was so important for me that you guys came in and spoke with us tonight. So back to your questions, other questions.
A resource, I have to dig for it. And it's Myths and Facts about Bilingualism, Disability, and AAC.
Okay, thank you.
Oh yeah, this is that's where you see that link that Alma shared. You do have there, the Code of Ethics says this.
Okay,
so
thank you guys.
Word it. You are following your, you know, when you became a speech pathologist, you kind of understood that these were part of your, you know, codes of ethics.
Okay.
Somebody posted in the chat that LAMP doesn't, the voices don't pronounce English correctly and vice versa. Yeah, I don't think they do it the same in touch chat either. So it's like one of those things where, again, that's why I don't really think there's a good bilingual app out there.
Touch chat does do it. And I learned this trick, like, I think last year. You have to save the profile. So when you know how you have to save the profile in the language. So you're creating an English profile, save it under that English voice. When you go into the Spanish one, you put in the Spanish voice, save it in like Touch Chat 60 Spanish. Yeah, so save it on that language. And then when you link it, it should code switch automatically. When you
press the message bar, does it say?
Oh,
really?
Just to add to that too, like some things that are tricky with the devices is that they might have it might say like Emilio Spanish voice, and then there may be Emilio English voice. So it can be confusing. So if you're choosing the wrong accent, then it's not going to be Spanish, even if it's Emilio. So you just have to be careful when you're downloading the correct voice that is actually a Spanish voice, because they created it in a way that was very difficult to understand which voice was actually the Spanish accent. So like, for example, on Touch Chat, you have to scroll all the way down where there's a whole category called Spanish. So it's not the ones on the top, even if it says Spanish. It's a little confusing.
And then
Oh,
side
nice.
note really quickly, and I did also email Saltillo about the fact that the Spanish voices are a paid option. So they're not like downloadable for free. Because I've been hearing from SLPs that it's usually like their district won't allow them to do in-app purchases. So that's something that I brought to their attention, and they said that, you know, they're kind of like working on it, but in terms of, you know, their hands are tied in certain situations. But that's also a problem, I feel like.
Yeah.
Because then the kids don't have the voice that they need.
Okay, do we have more questions, Sarah?
We do. We have about 3 more questions. Do we have time to go through them, or should we just wrap it up?
No, we have, this is an hour. So we have
Oh.
at least another half an hour. Yep.
Okay. So we can go through the
And I'm
rest.
loving just kind of the dialogue and back and forth conversation, and now people bringing up other. So yeah, no, we have time. So this is awesome. Thank you guys.
Yeah, and I also wanted to say, because someone asked about the Spanish, if you guys have a question in Spanish, we speak Spanish. So feel free to ask and we'll answer in Spanish.
Okay. So this one's a Puerto Rico question. It's about funding. So for states where it is hard to find funding, which we kind of touched upon today, what options do you recommend? And we have limited access to AAC high-tech devices in Puerto Rico. There's no companies to approach physically. So Maria?
Yes. So this one, it's an interesting question because I don't live in Puerto Rico and I don't know their guidelines. So just because it's not considered like a state, my recommendation would be to get in contact with the representatives of different companies to try to figure out what is it that they need to fund a device in that state. So on our website, again, for professionals, we also included the most common company, like AAC companies like Tobii Dynabox, Saltillo, PRC, Cough Drop, Assistive Wear, and really trying to figure out, like, when you contact them and trying to figure out how can they get funding for this device. I think that also for having limited access to AAC and high-tech devices, there's a lot of ways where you can get like a free, if you have an iPad or a tablet, there's a lot of ways that as an SLP or an educator, you can really go and ask for like a free license for assessment purposes. So this is another way that you might be able to do that. I know that funding is a little tricky, especially, well, here, I don't know if in Puerto Rico is the same, but you know, if the school doesn't, usually the school is the first source of funding. So if the child is a school-age child, they would want the school to provide that, but if for whatever reason the school is like no, then you could move on into insurances. If insurance is like no, then you can also look into like different programs in your state. I know sometimes different states run different programs. Some regional centers also have services where they can provide you like an evaluation and maybe some type of service where the speech pathologist there can help you get an AAC device, or even the regional center in itself can purchase that AAC device. But again, all of those, navigating through all those systems really depends on the child, how old the child is, what type of insurance the child, where is the child, and different things like that. But the first thing, so I would definitely recommend just kind of reaching out to those different companies and trying to figure out how can I get this for this individual in this state, in this area, and they will be able to help you a little bit more.
Then I wanted to add also that I follow a lot of Latin American SLPs that focus on AAC. And I mean, some of them have gotten Dynavox devices there. There's also Facebook groups specifically for, like, there's one called Hispanohablantes Assistive Wear. So a lot of Proloquo parents will go on the Facebook groups and forums and ask questions. I think TD Snap in Espanol is another Facebook group. So I think that would be a really good question to ask them specifically, like, what are you guys doing in terms of funding for devices?
I also do think that they have special prices, but I'm not 100% sure, right, Alma? Like, I feel like they have, I think it's like a little bit less is cheaper because they understand that currency is not the same US as maybe one of these countries. So I do think it's a little bit less expensive, but you would have to kind of contact the company creators. We also have a question here saying, I have supported many families who are worried that speaking two languages to their child with complex needs will be a disadvantage to their language learning. Can you speak for your advice on this? I don't know if anybody wants to, or Melissa.
I mean, I was going to say that Dr. Soto has a research article on this at 2004. And this was what parents said, like, I'm scared that they're going to, because they're learning, two, it's going to be disadvantageous for them. I don't even know if that's the right word, but also the fact that at that time in 2004, when that study came out, the professionals were telling the parents this, like, to stick to one language. So, and we have included a handout that we created, which is like the bilingual myths. And I've heard this before. I think it was Deanna Wagner, who does bilingual evaluations. She's an AAC specialist. She said that these parents are told two wrong things. They're told, number one, wait to introduce AAC until later, and then number two, keep it to one language. And both of those are myths. Like, that's not true at all. You can introduce both. In fact, you should, because if that's their native language at home, they need to. That's how there'll be a linguistic transfer. So yeah.
And we do have that handout. I think Sarah included it. And that kind of takes you back of the different bilingual myths and the actual reality. But it's a lot of those bilingual myths, it happens in bilingualism, and of course it transfers into AAC, which is, it's so, like, not only is it really hard to get AAC services and to get like the AAC device like we're talking right now, but then on top of that, you're putting all these like myths. It like makes it really difficult for families to navigate this, and also professionals, but it is not true.
And then I also remembered just now the Ellen McNamara study from 2018. She also says that even complex communicators can be bilingual. So it's in the research now that, there's nothing to dissuade them from doing two languages if they're complex communicators.
Yeah.
Okay. Go ahead.
I was going to say, and it goes back to like the approach of learning, being a bilingual. Some users, like Alma mentioned, they have one language, they're stronger than in the other language. So they actually have done research where when they use their dominant language to support that second language, it is easier sometimes, because you are ultimately language. It's not only about like speech, but it's a brain function, right? So you are supporting like learning concepts and things like that. So if you know the concept of something in one language and you use that to support the same learning concept in the other language, then we have found that being bilingual and using both language has been really beneficial for that.
I feel like the next question kind of like can dovetail to that. Is that like, how do you coach parents given the cultural differences and encourage them to use a device at home? So also, like, given this body of research and evidence that says that bilingualism is an important part of language therapy, how do you coach parents to understand that too? Alma.
Yeah. I mean, this could be an entire hour seminar just like this right here. But again, the research from Dr. Gloria Soto, the 2014 article, she has a whole article about like considerations for the provision of services to bilingual children who use AAC. And she details like the things you should keep into consideration when working with these families. But number one, I think this is something that I learned from her, is like to go less back on this approach that we've been taught in grad school of like, I am the professional, right? And you have to listen to me, and I'm going to have this clipboard and like, tell me what words your kid uses, like less professional and more collaborative. And I think that's very important. And it's almost like taking a step back and saying, what can this device do for you and your family, as opposed to like, where do I come in to like tell you what to do and how to model? Because it really has to be more of the parents having buy-in. I really do think that there's also so many cultural like barriers that like you as yourself that maybe are not part of that culture need to like assess of yourself. And she talks a lot about assessing your bias and stuff like that. I've read recently a really good book about Latina mothers mothering disabled children, in which they said, I feel like my kid's device stays, or they actually didn't say but they said the diagnosis of my kid was given at school, and school is where the disability kind of lives. And just understanding like where they're coming from too as a parent, right? There's have so many things that they have to worry about. And to be honest, sometimes for them, that their child's disability, quote unquote, is not, it's the least of their worries, to be honest. So just understanding there's a lot that goes into, like, you can't, there's no like clear cut answer of like how to best coach them, but just
Alma,
understand.
can you tell us the name of that book that you were discussing?
Yes,
Robert?
it's by
Okay.
Dr. Maria Cioe Peña.
Okay.
And she basically published her dissertation in which she interviewed, I think it was like 10 mothers of children who had quote unquote disabilities. And she changed the wording to have it be, I can't remember it, but it was basically mothers of, I'll find it, but she just basically focuses a lot on understanding that these mothers had a lot of other worries, and it was like really intense, like worries about like mothering other children that stayed in their home countries, you know, mothering from a different country, things like, again, that you're not, you know, again, their child's speech IEP is like their last thing they want to worry about or have the time and energy to worry about. But just in general, again, so going back to this question, just understanding it's less about like you taking a clipboard and like trying to, and more of like, what can this device do for you? And honestly, showing parents like what their student might be able to do once they have more experience with it, that always has buy-in. So like telling them like, oh, look, with the before the device, they couldn't tell us who was like biting them at school. And now like they have the means to communicate all these different things that we didn't know before. So yeah, it's important to have that.
Yeah. And this goes back to the social cultural approach. That's what it is all about, is really implementing the family's values and beliefs from the start, because that's what the really makes up the individual, right, that we're trying to provide language services to. I think that the book, Alma, the link is on the chat for the book Alma referenced.
Yeah.
I just found it as well on Amazon. So
Yeah.
So family-centered approach is definitely the important takeaway with these bilingual AAC users. And it's not just like inviting them to one meeting or, you know, just that one-time interaction or that one training. It's really making it the center of like, what are the words that are important to you? What are the importance that are important for activities, places for your family? And on our website, we do have a Spanish AAC questionnaire for getting started with the AAC, those important questions of personalizing their AAC device so that, you know, this leads to a better, you know, use of their AAC and not abandonment. So,
yeah.
But thanks, Alma, for sharing that. Alma shared that book with us too, and it's
yeah,
emotional.
I feel like any special ed, if you work in special ed, you have to read that book. Special ed students that are of Latino background. And she talked a lot about the ways that she assessed, like, and did her interviews as well. And she picked a location that was like not, that was like related to all of them. I think she picked like a church building, so something in the community. It's a really great book that you guys should all read. And then yeah, the research article was added too, I just saw, and that's a really good, like, good starting point in terms of like where to get started with cultural differences.
Book study, yes.
yeah.
And if you do need Spanish resources to coach that parent in Spanish, for example, like elicitation strategies, like learning how to self-talk, we do have that also available on our website under For Professionals. So I could let me just do a brief share of how that would look like. So we do have all of this in Spanish for you guys so that you can coach your parents. That one's a good one. One about descriptive teaching. That's a good one. And how to take care of your talker. How to begin. This one describes the different types of AAC that you would use. And again, it's in Spanish. So we have all of those recent, and we still have a lot more that we're still making. Yeah, we're just still going. So, you know, check back periodically. And if you sign up to our, if you sign up for updates, you'll get the updates as well.
And I have pulled up the Spanish questionnaire. I know if Sarah, if you want to, if you
Yeah, can
allow
you
me
want to
to
share
screen
it?
share.
Yeah, you can share
Just
it.
so people can see it. I don't think we've uploaded this just yet on our website.
Yeah.
But it's essentially what we, again, how can we make the device work for you? And here are some examples of stuff that we can add to the device that would make you want to use it at home, for example. So we have this in English and Spanish in terms of like words, food words that might be, adding extra fringe words that might not already be on the device. So something you might eat every day as opposed to like holidays, like adding those words will like really get buy-in, like making it be something that they can use in the home. And then in terms of drinks, we added like even examples, like would you use this, like asking them, would you say these words? And then if not, then they'll tell you, and then you can like add those words. So again, working alongside the parents in terms of like, how can this system work for you and your family at home?
Yeah. And if possible, including them in the evaluation process. If you do evaluations, really trying to include the family from the get-go and trying to figure out like, yeah, we can talk about like, we talked about the different bilingual apps, but showing those apps, the 3 different, at my placement, we have to show 3 different systems, right? And trial 3 different ones and then decide which one is the best for the individual. So having that same mindset, like including the parents from the beginning, like looking at their circle of support, like who is the person talking to the most, what language is the person talking the most at home with, and things like that. Sometimes I've come across a lot of SLPs and parents that and even myself, that just because I see that it's a bilingual, like a Latino family, like I assume like, oh, they're gonna want Spanish. But sometimes like their family unit, maybe they don't want to emphasize Spanish. They want to emphasize English for the many reasons. I don't know. The society has told them that they have to know a certain language to be successful, right? So we as the providers, we have to kind of respect that. So from the beginning, we really have to have that rapport with the family in terms of like trialing different AAC devices in their language and really asking and probing a lot of questions of like, what is it that they truly value, instead of us implementing to them what we think they value.
Yeah, and then I was going to say, like what you were mentioning about like assessing the communication partners, like I have trained the siblings on programming devices because they are the ones who, well, the parents are always involved, but I feel like the siblings do a lot of modeling, and I'm like, okay, you know how to work an iPad, like let me teach you how to add some words, or like in these situations, this might be perfect for you guys to use. So that I feel like when, as part of the assessment, when you're assessing like who is around the communication partners, anyways, you can definitely train the siblings.
The siblings, yeah. That questionnaire is it's really helpful to try to like get the conversation going, I think, in the dialogue, in terms of like what they consider important in their lives. And it gives you, for me, it gives me like a little snapshot of like what their lives kind of look like, right? Like what are the things that are important to them? And at the end of the day, I know that it gets complicated when you're a school SLP, and I do understand that. But I do think that a lot of the AAC intervention has to be centered in the family, even if it was only monolingual, like even if it was only English, I do still think that the family should be involved since the beginning.
Yeah. Some things to think about. I just want to be sure there's some monolinguals out there, some things that have been working for me, and I've been using a lot of if not all of the resources that we also produce. So just to make sure that it works, right? So some things that did work for me is like translator. And I know I've been hearing a lot that now a lot of people get access to translators as often. But my school district is really good about that. But if I don't have like someone I can get to, like a professional interpreter to come to meetings when I'm coaching parents, but also to get like a staff member, like somebody in the building who can speak Spanish, to just also do some interpreting in that lens. Also, like, I don't speak Spanish, and so I am a little embarrassed when I'm speaking. I have to do some of this stuff. It's embarrassing because I don't feel like my accent's gonna be the same, or like I have all this self-conscious things going on, right? But I think what really helped me is when I explicitly tell students, like, listen, I'm going to do Spanish. We're going to code switch. Can you tell it to me in Spanish? Or I'll phrase it in a way that's like, can you teach me Spanish? So then now we're code switching with intention, and they're teaching me these vocabulary words, as well as I am also modeling where it would be. And also working again with staff. Like a lot of times there's at least one staff member who I'm going to push in with in the classroom to do that. So then that really helps a lot. But is it the same as if like Maria or Alma or Melissa was going to do it? Probably not, right? Like, let's temper my expectations here, right? But do they get better? Yeah, they do. And they do learn the Spanish, and then they do. And if I'm encouraging parents to also do it, then they're doing it on their end. And it does actually like at least move things along.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's really helpful. So we have like one last slide, and it's 4:56.
Yeah.
So I think
Okay.
it's a really fast one. It's a resource page. So
I wanted to say something about what Sarah said. Even though you are a monolingual speaker, I think the fact that you are highlighting their language, their culture, and being interested is a big deal. So your families will appreciate you a lot more, and they will be like, okay, yeah, what's this AAC about? And have that buy-in, which buy-in is really important. But on our website, even, and this is something that Gloria Soto says a lot in her presentation, is like even learning 5 words in that language, like the greetings, like hola, adios, like little things like that mean a lot. And I think on our website, we have for professionals, the link Colorín Colorado, they have different resources of like Spanish words and English words to learn. Like if you wanted to learn like just a simple 5 or simple 10 words like that. So yeah, so this next question is for Melissa.
All right, so I would like to know what certifications or continuing education courses I need to take to feel comfortable and prepared to evaluate in the AAC area. So this is kind of a loaded question. But it is a great question because, you want to get started and build that expertise, and it's never too late. So with AAC assessment, there's no like standardized, structured way of doing it. There's going to be a lot of, even with our bilingual users, like that dynamic assessment that's going to take place. Home language surveys, language sampling is a big one as well. And then, you do have to have an understanding of their receptive language skills. But we have some websites or different resources here listed. AAC in the Cloud is a great one that's coming up in June. That one is free to attend. They have so many great presenters. We will be there.
I'll be there too.
Yay! Semantic Compaction, PRC Saltillo. They have a ton of great webinars. PRC Saltillo has a lot of free ones as well. They have some that you do have to pay for, but they do have great information. I think they do a wonderful job of, especially if there's a certain area of AAC assessment. Sarah was sharing this earlier, where you feel like you need, to refine a little bit more. If you can like kind of pull that apart and be like, what, I need to just find out more of the like operational standpoint. You can search these webinars and be able to find exactly like the information you're seeking. Specifically in AAC evaluation. Practical AAC, Carol Zangari, this is another great one that has a ton of resources. Rachel Medell has, I think, also a podcast and a great website. The AAC Institute.org also, of course, ASHA, and then San Francisco State University has a specific page dedicated to AAC. You can dive in there and find some more specific to AAC assessments. Speechpathology.com has some AAC webinars as well. And then, of course, there's books. Remember those? There's a ton of great books that actually are great resources. Practically Speaking by Zangari and Soto, Comprehensive Literacy for All. And then I think, Maria, I don't know if you have yours on hand still.
Oh yeah, I know. I was just talking about this, but this is my, I don't like to use the word Bible. I don't know what's my, but this is what I use for all AAC,
Oh, yeah.
for my all AAC evaluation and intervention purposes. There's an AAC chapter. So if you go in there, read that chapter, and it's so helpful. I know it's all theory and academic. So I would suggest to you to like, just kind of take it in, but then at the same time, what I do is I adjust it to my setting. It's different for every setting. But yeah, so, and of course the webinars and all of those things, resources that Melissa pointed out, they're very helpful. And this one is the Augmented and Alternative Communication by Dr. Bookman and Dr. Light.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And we also, and we started in our chat, we offer an AAC intervention course as well through our academy.
Nice.
We don't have a bilingual thing, but maybe we can talk to you guys about creating something. I think that would be, we can talk about that later. So, but we do offer those courses as well.
Yeah, nice.
And a lot of it is similar in terms of like a bilingual, or because I think Maria and I, or we were all talking about just like in general, you're assessing the family, aspect and the communication partners.
It's like, really environments, right? And what is the environment? Like the family is the biggest environment that the child or individual is spending time in. So, yeah.
Somebody asked about a bilingual Portuguese and English speaker questionnaire. I was trying to find it, but I follow an Instagram SLP that does assistive technology, and I'll have to find her name. I'm sorry, but I think she might have, some resources. But yeah, you can also make occasions, the one that we did. That might be a good idea. But you would have to get somebody from the community to help you like think of those words to have us examples. But yeah.
Are there any questions?
Someone mentioned there's a new book out.
Yeah.
Fundamentals of AAC. I have the one on AAC and cultural by Mendel. I don't have it here, but that's another one that mentions some diversity stuff. Let me see. But yeah, thank you guys for having us. This is really exciting. The hour like flew by.
It does. It does.
Okay. But yeah.
Let's see what other messages. Okay.
Great question.
Okay. Thank you guys so much. This is really informative. So I appreciate your time.
Yeah, no problem. And then, just follow us we're on Facebook. We have a Facebook group called Bilingual AAC. We have an Instagram account, and then stay tuned to the website as we add new stuff. And then the next time we'll present will be AAC in the cloud. So we hope to see you guys there.
Do you guys know which day you're presenting on at AAC in the cloud?
Yes, I think June 29.
Let
me double check.
The 29th
at 1 p.m. PST. So it would be 4 p.m. Eastern Standard.
Okay. Before we wrap up, I do want to say and encourage more monolingual therapists to do this work. Because, a huge passion project for us and point of view is just understanding that we can't be awaiting for more Spanish speakers. They're not going to come. It's not going to be happening. And with the number of students who need AAC, just special education in general, and the number of like languages that are being spoken right now, like you just have to start getting more comfortable with being innovative and figuring out things. And that's essentially what we had to do. We had to just look at the very like 1 or 2 research available about Spanish language and just be innovative about that. And I just want us to always be thinking about bilingualism and being innovative and figuring things out amongst ourselves, even if like the rest of the world isn't yet. They're just not ready. That's it. That doesn't mean that we should stop though.
I know.
Well, actually the numbers say that it's more common to be bilingual in the world, just in the whole world. It's more common to be bilingual than monolingual. So monolingual is not the norm.
And I know
But in the United States, it's a different story, right?
Yeah.
But
when Sarah first met me, I think that was one of the things she like brought up with me was like, they're not cranking them out at the level that we need them. And we can't be referring out to a bilingual SLP because she's not going to come. And especially not a bilingual SLP that knows AAC. Like, unfortunately, we're like a unicorn. There's so little of us that we're kind of like, we know each other because there's so little of us. And so, yeah. And unfortunately, our coursework doesn't allow us to like learn about multilingual learners, like embedded into our graduate coursework, but just like seeking out those CEUs if you can about multilingualism, about multilingual development, language development. I think that's important. But yeah, I think that, yeah, we should all be well versed. We should all be kind of like, learn about bilingualism, not just the bilingual SLPs.
yeah, and it's not and this goes back to the whole thing. It's not necessarily you're not teaching Spanish. That's not the point. Like the point is not for you, the monolingual, to go in there and teach the individual Spanish, because of course you can't do that if you don't speak the language. But the whole purpose of it is trying to be aware, culturally diverse, I guess, aware of like this person is more than just what school is involved, right? Because in school they only say English, so I only should do English. Well, no, there's more to this person, and you can actually use all those skills to teach the concepts that you're trying to teach this person. So I think that it's just being more aware and accepting is all we can do, but also you exploring and doing a lot of research, and don't be afraid to do it. Like Sarah said, you can do it.
And empowering the family is like, oh, by the way, there's this button, like beyond the button,
exactly.
like you need to like honor your language that you use at home. So yeah.
So we can send out this PowerPoint, which really, I don't even know if it has enough information in it, but we'll send out the PowerPoint, and we'll also send out the links for those resources that we're talking about. So yeah, well, thank you for having us.
Of course. Thank you guys so much. And we will have another fireside chat for everyone who's still here. The next one is June 5th. That's a Sunday evening as well. So we have two presenters from Extra Lucky Moms. So we'll be talking about just how to empower families of children with special needs, because I think that family piece is important as well. So thank you guys so much. And feel free to just send us an email if anyone has any more questions. Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.
Bye.